Hey guys, it's Deadmano here. Some of you may know me from the Nexus mods with my Skyshards mod. I've basically put this video together today to try to showcase the work that I've done, kind of an apology, if you would call it that, as to why I've taken so long. I believe it's 7 days since I've released the mod, and there hasn't been any significant updates, or actually no actual updates besides version 1. And there's a very specific reason for that, and I'm basically just going to jump into it so that you guys can understand the situation and where I currently stand. So this is my basic loadout. I've got my initial version 1, which all of you would be running. I've got my develop branch, which we'll get to in a bit. I've got a stock standard load order as well, the standard DLCs, my mod, a mod that allows me to find the current cell that I'm in the world, which was very helpful in trying to place a sky shard. So massive shout out to that mod author. Obviously we got alternate starts, so I don't have to go through the entire beginning sequence, so big thanks to Arthur on that. And yeah, I don't have you sleep ticked at the moment. You guys may be wondering why that is specifically, and that's because I've noticed quite a few users don't end up actually using the unofficial fixes and patches for some reason. So I tend to develop my mods on a stock standard install where I assume you'll have the base game and the DLCs. So that's basically what I've done, and you'll see the issue now, not specifically because of Usleep, but because of mod conflicts in general. So we're going to get into that right now. So yeah, the reason why I've been putting off is because I'm terrified about having anyone start over or lose any progress, or just affecting their game in general. I'm kind of a perfectionist when it comes to that, due to my OCD, and these things constantly run in the back of my head. I'm like, did I check this? No. Did I check that? Yes. Have I checked in every situation that the user may find themselves in? And that's what I've been doing, and I've come to this conclusion. So we are loading this without Usleep, and this is where we currently stand. So I've got a sky shard over here that's been moved. So some of you may realize this is the Hafengar sky shard. It's the only one in the region, and it used to be atop this mountain precipice here, but for some reason it got the mountain range got moved in Usleep. So I moved the sky shard over from there to here, which is great. No issues, no worries, there's no problem. But what happens when you have activated the sky shard and a static gets placed? Sorry, it's the wrong save. Just make sure I got the right save. Okay, so what happens when you've activated the sky shard, which was here? Now a static gets left behind dynamically. That was part of the whole scripting process that I had. I used to place them down manually and then link them together and disable the linked reference, but as you can imagine, that takes a lot of extra development time, and it was unnecessary. So I thought, why not use the place at me command and place an exact reference at the active skyshard location. So that's all and well, and it sits here perfectly fine. But as I said, what happens if I need to move the skyshard static over there? As you can see, it's not there, it's over here. And that was the issue. Because we created it dynamically, we couldn't exactly reference it in an easy manner. It's not stored in a variable. You can't access it outside of any function. It wasn't in a form list, which going forward, I've learned from that, and every time you absorb a sky shard, the static that's created gets stored in a form list, so it makes it much easier. What I've had to rely on now is basically a trick with quests and aliases, thanks to Hishi, hi shut up, who basically told me, if you stop and start a quest, aliases are filled, and it finds the first match in the game world, and you can perform an action on that. Obviously it can be quite lengthy and quite the process, so I've decided to rather store them in formless going forward. But for those of you who already have this issue, which you'll see now, I needed to find a solution to solve it, because I didn't like to just leave it, and I'm going to show you the issue right now. So we're going to enable use sleep, which I assume a lot of you, including myself, do use, and we're going to run the exact same save, and I'll show you what the issue is. Some of you may already have some ideas. And you know, I'd love to hear the feedback, comment, especially from you guys who are veteran advanced Papyrus programmers who can give some hints and tips, because to me it's an endless learning process. I absolutely love it. I love being faced with challenges and overcoming and solving them, finding new ways and progressing. Like, I knew nothing when I started Papyrus scripting. I literally knew nothing, and I had talks with Mater the Eternal, and I got a lot of tips and feedback from him. So yeah, it's just been a massive learning process, and obviously, as you can see here right now, this is the issue that I expect a lot of you would have come across in the game. So we have a floating sky shard, and the reason for this is this mountain pass right here. These mountains were moved for some reason, obviously a very good reason, that the USleep team decided to do that. However, this leaves us with an issue like this, and you can imagine now other mods that add housing, or they add just anything in general. If it clashes with my sky shard activator, so this static rather, I can't necessarily move it, which is exactly what I'd want to do. So in a situation like this, I would like to take this static and place it, you know, flush on top of here, or to be able for this to work with and without USleep, I would have decided to rather move it here, which is exactly what I did in version 1.0.1. But as you can see, that static has decided to remain there, even though the unactivated version would have moved fine. And the reason for that is, you know, the persistence and the reference that it points to. So I managed to solve this with some quest aliases and scripts, which I'm going to show you guys now. And what we have here in the config file is we're going to, so several things happened, and several new things that I learned as well is that unfortunately variables that you store in quests are not saved once the quest stops and starts again. They start over, and unfortunately I also didn't manage to include the player alias, which was supposed to go into version 1, so a lot of things got left out. And you know, this is one of those things where you got to build up a checklist, and that's exactly what I've done going forward. Make sure that I look at all these things, and it's going to help in, you know, future projects and such. So what I've done is to detect a previous version, so not a brand new install. People that install the mod clean will just basically phase right through this, no issues. For those of you that had version 1, I know for a fact that the string version for the version installed will be blank, so it will be null. So that's exactly how I can check that you had a previous version, and because I know the previous version was version 1, as there were no other releases, that makes it so much easier. So here we go and we set the version to version 1, and we do a simple check to ensure if we are running version 1, we are going to specifically run these commands. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm just going to comment these out, because I want to show you in real time with the issue that we've had. Actually, no, I'm just going to leave it. I don't have to, because I've shown you the issue. So let me show you what it should look like now going forward. So you won't be running version 1 anymore. You would have moved on to the update, which is either version 1.0.1 or version 1.1, depending if I end up adding new sky shards. I still got to see how far I'm going to progress with that. So running the update on the config script, it will automatically detect the previous version. It will run several commands that will rectify the issue and add several cool new features that quite a few of you have requested, including the mod configurator. So I'm really excited. A lot has been done, and I'm really sorry that it's been so delayed, but I would rather not rush things and test extensively than end up accidentally breaking your saves, or getting to a point where I can't, you know, recover your progress, and I guess that really terrifies me at the end of the day. So here we are, loading the same save in version 1. So I'm going to freeze it right here, and as you can see, the Skyshards static is still here. So what's going to happen as soon as you start up, you shouldn't really notice this because it happens near instantaneously with the quest aliases being filled. But the config script will run, it will place a static at the new location of the Skyshard. And that is basically how I solve conflicts. So going forward, if anyone reports an issue with one of my Skyshards saying, look, it's in a location where it's conflicting with another mod, or another mod has an item on top of it, or has moved something. In general, you wouldn't want mods, editing the landscape, but it happens. These things do happen for very specific reasons, and if they do, I just want you guys to know that I can solve it now, thanks to the function. So that's exactly what it did over here. And as you can see, map markers have just been disabled, which was on by default. So those are the things that you guys have asked me for. On top of that, you will have a Skyshard configurator. I had a previous one from a previous test, so just ignore the extra one. But when you open it, you'll get a simple mod config menu where you can customize several options, such as enabling the map markers if you choose to have them. These weren't actually supposed to be included in the main version. I left them for testing purposes so I can get to every single Skyshard easily. And I just forgot to disable them, and I thought, why not? Maybe some people want them, maybe it will come in handy. Leave it as optional for those of you that want that. And then some of you had the issue with Skyshard beacons. I'm gonna go to a place where you can notice multiple of them at once. So again, I would have liked a fade in, fade out option for the big beacons, and that does unfortunately not exist due to the way that the LODs work. So I can either have them always on, and then you end up seeing them far into the distance, which makes them finding them rather trivial, or I can have them off, but then they'll pop in. So I thought, for those of you that don't want the beacons, go to your configurator, go to Skyshard beacons, and simply hit disable, and it will find every single Skyshard beacon and disable them, and you'll get a notification in the top left as soon as it's done, informing you of that. So yeah, those are some of the options that I've gone through. We can just go out of here now. So some of you might be wondering as to how I've achieved this. So with the function that I have, we're starting a quest that we specify. So we take 3 parameters in this function: the quest, the alias that, sorry, 2 of them, I'll think of another function. All we take is the quest and the alias attached to the quest. Then we take the object reference, which is the alias, as the reference alias, and we get its reference. And as long as that reference is not none, so it has a value in it, we can proceed with processing our function. And what we end up doing there is, as long as that reference is not none, we take the reference, whether it's enabled or disabled, and we delete the reference and set the reference to none, so that we basically try to clean up after ourselves. And thereafter we stop the quest, and remember, because this is a while, it will loop constantly, and since we have about 21 references they'll match, it will stop and start 21 times, which happens near instantaneously, as you've seen. I just ran it now on all 21, and it took about 4 or 5 seconds to clear them all. I'm sure I can speed it up in other ways, but for now it does exactly what I need to do, and it's a once-off thing, so you're not going to notice any performance impacts. This is just to fix the blunder that I inadvertently caused with my initial release. And as I said, I have solved that by when I place my static over here. So we have the disabled Skyshard static, which is place at me, the reference to the static. What we end up doing then is, after enabling it, we add that static to a form, and what that allows us to do is essentially run any command on that entire form. And then if we go to over here, you can see now I've got a new function. This is completely different from the one above, because we're not relying on quests and aliases, which can be finicky on times. So what we end up doing here is get the form, get its size, so that gives us a count. So 0 base indexes of 0 to 20 for 21 objects. We'll loop through them, and as long as we have a valid integer there, we can run our function on it, and we do the same as above by deleting the reference and setting it to none. And once we're done, we can revert the formless, which basically empties it out and clears it so that we don't have any possible issues. And then as soon as we've done that, we are going to look at our activator list, and that list basically stores every Skyshard that you've ever absorbed, and thankfully this was part of version 1. So I have a list of every Skyshard you've ever discovered, and if I end up moving those Skyshards, the cool thing about it is it still points to that reference. So I can place them anywhere in the world, move them around to solve mod compatibility, and I will always know its location. And why that is crucial is when I remove the Skyshards statics, and I'll call this function whenever there's a clash with another mod that I need to resolve, I can place new Skyshards statics at the location of the moved Skyshard, and everything will go back to the way it was without any issues. So going forward, I think I have a really solid framework for this, and it's taken me several days. As I said, I haven't been doing anything else but this, and yeah, I don't know if I should be proud to admit some things took me longer than they should have, 2-3 days at a time, trying to get into the logic. I think the most complicated one was this massive one over here that I'm running 3 loops through, where I'm basically trying to enable and disable the Skyshards. But why this one is so complicated is I need to take into account Skyshard beacons that are linked to the Skyshards that you've already activated. Because if you disable all the Skyshard beacons, cool, that's great, it doesn't matter, let's disable all of them. But I can't enable every single Skyshard beacon because some Skyshards that you've already activated shouldn't have a beacon attached to them. So what I end up doing is looping through the list, which is the list that holds the Skyshards you've activated, and I compare that item at that specific list level with the reference, and I get the nth linked reference from it, because I usually have 2 linked references to the master being the Skyshard, or the parent rather. So the child of that, 0 being the Skyshard, 1 being the beacon, and from that I can then go through another while loop and say, okay, if this reference is not a parent, that does not belong to the beacon, we can enable it. And yeah, that's basically how I managed to solve that one. And we've got the give configurator script here, which is also quite cool, because if I end up updating the mod and new functions are added for the configurator, I need to make sure you don't have an item that's using old scripts. You want a fresh, clean one, and that ends up happening automatically on the config script. So here I have a update section, and here's a dedicated section to fixes in version 1. Going forward, these will be retroactive fixes, and my main concern is that nothing that I end up doing, even if it inadvertently is not what I intended, ends up affecting your game. So that's the most important part to me. So I'm sorry that it's been a slow process, and I haven't managed to release the mod as fast as I would like, because placing down the Skyshards are they're like not really trivial at all. You just open it up in the CK, place down a Skyshard, link a reference, and that's it. But the coding behind it is what is somewhat complicated, and I try to take things slowly. As you can have a quick peek at my quest script, what happens is so every reference that's going to be in the world is linked to a quest, and once that quest stops, and if you start that quest again, all the variables, everything that was linked to the quest, as I said earlier, will be gone. So if you guys end up finding all the Skyshards now, so let's say all 21, and I were to stop that quest, and then I need to start it again at a later point when I add more of them, I would have lost all track of the previous Skyshards that you guys had found, which is completely unacceptable to me, because I don't want you guys to lose any progress. So what I had to do last minute in version 1, which I'm not really proud of, and it works, so I'm not going to really complain, is I dedicated a Skyshard tracker, and what I did is I literally mapped every single Skyshard reference through its form ID, and I linked them like that. So I'm checking for the ESP, I'm checking for the form ID, and I'm saying, okay, this is eastmarch 01 Skyshard, eastmarch 02, whiterun 01, etc. And then I'm going through the find Skyshard function, which loops, takes the form and confirms that, okay, is this Skyshard that's been found? If it's been found, cool, I can do something. And why this is going to be important is when I finally bring out the quest system, I can loop through all of the Skyshards that were in version 1, and I can check, regardless of what the quest status is currently, have you found it, yes or no? Is it enabled, yes or no? And then when the quest system comes out and I have separate quest functions for all 9 holds, I can say, okay, you found 3 of X here, 2 of X here, 7 of X here, and I can update the quest accordingly. So that's why it's been a slow process, and I feel that I'm really getting on top of this, and everything is working out as best it can be, considering, like I said earlier, I've had no experience whatsoever when it came to Papyrus. In fact, I was still learning JavaScript at the time. Programming has always fascinated me, but I didn't have any formal background in it. I didn't go study it further. It's mainly been self-taught, and it's been a passion that I want to get into. And then the Skyrim modding fever kicks in, and you end up playing around in Xedit, and eventually it just developed into this passion where I was like, I want to do this, and I ended up writing everything that I have here through it. And it's through learning, and obviously you need to give credit where credit is due to very patient people that have been willing to help, such as I mentioned, Mator and she, and especially Insane Matt, who has no idea what Papyrus is about, but a very strong background in the C# languages. So yeah, hopefully that gives you guys an idea of more or less where I currently stand, and a major apology to any of you that feel it's been delayed, or that I've just dropped off the face of the earth and I'm no longer working on mod, because that's completely not the case whatsoever. I've been constantly working on this every single day since the mod has been released. I've been fine-tuning the functions, the scripts, and you can say it's slight paranoia due to my OCD, but I literally want to make sure that I'm covered for any situation that may arise, because there's so many things that you don't realize may happen until they actually do. So yeah, I'm happy that I have a way to revert the status of the Skyshards, the status of the scripts, and the status of the quest. Those are the 3 core functions that run my mod, and with that covered, I feel confident moving forward. So yeah, hopefully I get this video up today, and by tomorrow, sometime this weekend, I will have version 1.0.1 or 1.1, depending on if I end up releasing additional Skyshards, which I think you guys deserve. And yeah, for any of you that listen through this, I appreciate you taking the time and effort to do so, and I hope my mod brings you as much fun and pleasure as it has brought me making it. So thanks a ton.